doctor's appointments here. I mean, there are the facilities here. There's a lot of things they have to go to Kansas City. And that's another thing I see the problem with them. Home care, they want to know, can they take you to the doctor? How to do that? Really take care of you at home. And I guess we can go with them. Our staff can go with them. If they ride the bus or whatever, they can go with them. They just can't take them in their car or drive their car. So we don't have the liability for that. So, I mean, it's a lot more than just, it's not just taking people to the legends, but there's hospitals and the doctor's offices are down there that aren't here too. I'm glad to see some doctors come in here.
Pretty much. Good evening. Welcome to the May 8th City Commission meeting, regular City Commission meeting. I ask that everyone either silence or turn off their cell phones. We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by silent meditation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Start off, we have 3 proclamations. First one is Historic Preservation Month, and I ask that Mr. Otto, Ed Otto, Rick Jackson, and John Koresh come forward. And anyone else? There's names I have. Anybody with? Welcome. Sir. Whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for managing growth and sustainable development, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing livability. And whereas historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. And whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that have shaped us as a people. And whereas This Place Matters is a national campaign co-sponsored by the Leavenworth Preservation Commission, Preservation Alliance of Leavenworth, Leavenworth Main Street, and the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Now, therefore, I, Mark Preisinger, Mayor of the City of Leavenworth, hereby proclaim May 2018 to be Leavenworth Historic Preservation Month. And you may applaud. Whatever your spokesperson is.
Thank you very much on behalf of all the board members that are present.
Thank you for your work.
Anybody else care to say anything? Fantastic.
Thank you. Good job, guys. Good job.
Next proclamation, National Police Week. We have Chief Kitchen. Welcome, Chief. Whereas there are approximately 900,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including 60 sworn members of the City of Leavenworth Police Department. And whereas the Congress of the United States of America has designated the calendar week each year during which May 15th occurs as National Police Week, and May 15th of each year to be Peace Officers Memorial Day. And whereas the members of the City of Leavenworth Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedom of the City of Leavenworth, Kansas, and whereas the names of those dedicated public servants are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Memorial in Washington, D.C. Currently, there are 21,183 names of fallen heroes engraved on the memorial, of which 143 officers were killed in 2016. Whereas all officers of the Leavenworth Police Department are encouraged to turn on the red and blue lights for 1 minute every day at 11 a.m. from May 13th, 2018 through May 19th, 2018. Now, therefore, I, Mark Preisinger, Mayor of the City of Leavenworth, hereby proclaim May 13th through 19th, 2018 to be National Police Week. And I'd like to mention that the Chief and I and 3 members of the Police Department were in Topeka last Friday. For the police memorial dedication. We had an officer from Leavenworth Police Department back in 1925, who was killed in the line of duty. He had not been memorialized, and he was memorialized along with 3 other officers, from one as far back as the 1870s and 2 of them in the 1800s, 2 in the early 1900s. Through record searches found that they were killed in line of duty, but they had not been properly memorialized. So his name was engraved on the police memorial in Topeka. So congratulations, Chief. Please say a few words.
Mr. Mayor, Commission, appreciate very much on behalf of the men and women of the Leavenworth Police Department a brief pause this week as we honor the sacrifice of all the police officers for their heroic efforts. I might briefly remind you, you are invited cordially next Wednesday, May the 16th at 5:30 p.m. We will have our annual Law Enforcement Awards banquet. Please come and spend an hour and a half or so recognizing the men and women of the police department and all their great work from last year. Thank you very much.
Next is National Public Works Week. Mr. McDonald, Mike McDonald, Director of Public Works. Whereas public works services provided in the city of Leavenworth are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives, and whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as wastewater, streets, highways, public buildings, solid waste collection, recycling, and snow removal. And whereas the health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depends on these facilities and services. And whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, is vitally dependent upon the efforts and skill of public works officials. And whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff the Leavenworth Public Works Department is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of the work they perform. Now, therefore, I, Mark Preisinger, Mayor of the City of Leavenworth, hereby proclaim May 20th through 26th, 2018 to be Leavenworth Public Works Week. Congratulations, sir.
I would like to express the thanks from myself, my staff, and the hardworking employees of the Public Works Department for the citizens who provide the resources and the commissioners that help allocate our resources that allow us to do the various functions of public works that were mentioned by the mayor. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be of service, to work hard, and provide the opportunity for personal and professional growth for myself and our employees. Thank you.
The next item is old business, consideration of previous meeting minutes from April 24th. Any additions, deletions, corrections, or comments from the commission?
No.
If not, I'll take a motion.
I move that we approve the minutes of the April 24th, 2018 regular meeting.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes from the April 24th, 2018 meeting. Begin voting. Commissioner Griswold?
Aye.
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 Passes 4-0. Thank you. Next item is citizens' participation. This part of the agenda is reserved or set aside for any citizen that cares to address the commission or present petitions to the clerk. And if you do address the commission, just ask that you address the commission on items not on tonight's agenda. You can address those items later. So does anyone care to address the commission on any items? Yes, ma'am. Please come forward. Ms. Scheit, please identify yourself, even though we know who you are.
Wendy Scheit, the Leavenworth Main Street Director. I just wanted to give a shout out for the Leavenworth City Market. Starts this Saturday. It's always second Saturdays, May through October at Haymarket, and always lots of fun things. So we encourage folks to clean out their basements, their garages, their attics, merchants that have overstock, any kind of items can be sold at the City Market. And it's from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Always a lot of fun. You never know what you're going to find. And also I wanted to give a shout out. Our Build a Bouquet has been a popular event, and it is this Saturday. It runs from 10 to 4. It's a great way for families to come out. Limit 2 per family, but Children, husbands can collect a beautiful stem from 20 different merchants plus fillers, so they end up with a tremendously beautiful bouquet. They come to the Main Street office starting at 9:30 on Saturday to purchase their mason jar vase for $5. So for that $5, they have the entire day from 10 to 4, and they're guaranteed their stem. And we always encourage them to shop downtown and have lunch downtown and enjoy the downtown. There's a limit of 100 vases. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else care to address the commission? If not, we'll move on to general items. First item is request for cereal malt beverage license of 1031 Metropolitan.
Our city clerk, Carla Williamson, will handle this item.
Mayor and Commissioner, the item before you is a request for an off-premise cereal malt beverage license for Diamond Oil Number 2 at 1031 Metropolitan Avenue. It has been approved, the application has been approved and reviewed by the Police Department and Sanitation Department for this application. So this would just take the approval of the City Commission, should you desire to approve that.
Just for clarification, that location's always sold beer, but since it changed ownership, they have to reapply
That's
for a
correct.
license. It doesn't transfer the property, it transfers, only the owners have to do it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Any questions?
No.
If not, I'll take a motion.
Go ahead, Mike.
I'll go ahead and move to approve the 2018 off-premise cereal malt beverage license for Diamond Oil Number 2, 1031 Metropolitan Avenue, Leavenworth, Kansas.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the cereal malt beverage as presented. Begin voting. Commissioner Bowder?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Thank you. Next item is review of property on demolition list, 800 Miami.
City planner Julie Hurley will handle this item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. As you said, this is a review of the property located at 800 Miami Street. This property was placed on the demolition list on October 10th of 2017. After that date, the owner of the property, it does happen to be a bank-owned property, the bank contacted the city indicating their intent to repair the property per what we required. So they did sign a remediation agreement that had a deadline of March 1st of this year to have all agreed upon improvements made. At the December 12th City Commission meeting, the City Commission formally granted an extension until March 1st for them to make all of those repairs. And then the Commission again reviewed the property on March 13th after that deadline had passed. At that time, they had not completed all the repairs, and so the Commission voted to grant them an additional 45-day extension. Since that time, a permit to trim out the windows and make interior repairs was issued, but no or minimal additional exterior work had been completed. The photos in your packet were taken last Thursday. We did go out and take pictures today just to see if they'd made any progress over the weekend. There was some minimal progress, but as you can see, there's still the soffits and eaves and trim around the windows. Still has quite a bit of peeling paint and is in need of some wood rot repair, which we've communicated to them several times, and it just has not been completed. So at this time, your action would be to remove the property from the demolition list or grant an additional extension.
Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a great appetite to bulldoze a house that's 85% or more complete. But this is owned by a corporation, a bank in Oklahoma. Has anybody reached out to the bankers and say, what is going on?
I've spoken with them personally. There's been multiple contacts at the bank that I've spoken with. They've all indicated that they're taking care of it. They intend to take care of it. I don't know. Yeah, and they did have a real estate auction for this property at the end of last month. I checked the real estate auction website. I couldn't tell if it had sold. They didn't answer that question for me. So they've been made aware multiple times by myself and by the code enforcement officer of what needs to be done. And just it hasn't quite gotten there, but I do agree that tearing down a house that has minor repairs needed is probably not the direction the commission wants to go. It's just a matter of how to compel them now to finish up those.
But when we put it on the list, they had major repairs, and they've completed
They
some of
did.
those, but, yeah, I don't, maybe I'm looking for some guidance from the commission. How do we put some teeth into this?
That's a good, you're asking a good question.
Yeah, how do, you know,
Notify them, tell them they've got 2 weeks to complete the repairs or it will go be tore down. And I hate to do that. I'm always the one that fights for them.
Yeah.
Mark and I lock heads quite
yeah,
a few
yeah,
times.
I'm very surprised it's coming out of Commissioner
I mean, and I understand where he's coming from. and
Since
I
this is a
definitely-
bank, this is not an individual that's.
Right, this, we're dealing with a corporation and they need to be, they need to have a foot in their butt, what it comes down to. And I'd give them 10 days.
I can see the quote right now, Commissioner Davis.
I don't,
That's the only
I don't
time
know.
they quoted it, so.
that's what I don't understand. Why are they taking so long? Why are they dragging their feet? It looks like they
Yeah.
would wanna
Well, we
get.
gotta find out, is it them or is it the contractor that they've got hired? I have no idea.
I couldn't answer that question for you. The bank is located in Oklahoma, so they don't have a local representative. I'm not sure how they're, working this particular property. So, yeah, I couldn't answer that question.
And of course,
That's why they're taking so
I know where this house is. I wonder if, we don't even know what the inside looks like, This is what they.
We did get pictures, when we first placed this on the demolition list, we have an environmental contractor that goes out and does an assessment, and they do give us pictures on the inside. We typically don't like to put those in a packet and publish those for, obvious reasons of making interior pictures of a property available,
Right.
to the general public, but the inside from staff's assessment really is not that bad.
Okay.
And it is a house that appears from
So I wonder
what
if there
we've
were
seen
animals
to
living in,
be,
or if there was.
it didn't appear
floors
that
that
way,
were-
and it looked from what we saw pretty salvageable.
Okay.
Well, I've driven by it several times. The foundation is still good on it.
Yeah.
The roof is straight, I don't.
And they did replace the roof.
They did replace.
And I would say if the commission were to decide to remove this from the demolition list, this is something that we could then pursue through regular property maintenance, code enforcement.
Okay. Let's do that.
And,
I don't wanna
go through
tear
our
it down.
process that way, and, end up in court, and, we've got some steps we can take that way if the commission were to decide to take it off the list.
I think that would be my choice.
What were you gonna say, Commissioner
Well,
Rizzo?
I think
I
this
don't
was
care
the
now.
property, a month or 45 days ago that we had a discussion on in terms of standards. And when I read this, in preparation for the meeting, I did wonder where the third option was in terms of demolishing the property. I don't think we're at that point yet, but I would support what, Commissioner Dedeke is saying. I would probably give them maybe a little bit more, a month, but, it is a bank, and I just don't get it why they can't, finish it up. So I would be more in favor right now, of keeping it on the list, granting a month extension, and, saying, let's get this work done, or there is 3 options, and one of them is demolition. Not that I wanna do that, but.
What is the name of the bank?
Midland.
It's,
Midland
MidFirst
something.
Bank / Midland Mortgage.
Mortgage,
Yeah,
MidFirst Bank, or is it Tulsa?
yes, I believe so.
I think I looked at it a couple months ago. I don't think it's a big bank. It's not like Bank of America, one of the
Right.
188 branches in Oklahoma, small bank. I don't know if you, city manager, or that even be willing to do it, but maybe leave it at your level, call and ask to speak to the president of the bank. And, I don't know, what does council recommend? That we call them and say, hey, we're serious here, and if you don't do something, we're gonna do something. I don't know if the right people, it's just getting staff that comes across somebody's desk, but I think if a high-level officer in the bank gets a call from a person in the city and says, your name's getting dragged through the dirt and your property is a blight on our town, I think it might, and we've given them every option. It's not like.
And the frustrating part is they've made slow but continual process. So
Yeah.
it's not a complete stone wall, but I would be willing to call and say, let's get this finished as soon as we can, and see where that goes. But I'm confident they'll get it done. It's just really frustrating right now that they're taking the time that they're taking.
But if we don't put some type of suspense date on them, they could.
It's really hard because we would have to package it in a demo bid,
Yeah.
and then you gotta do utility cuts, and demos aren't,
No, I mean, if we don't say, we're giving you a 30-day extension, then we're gonna take action. If we say, it's off the list, and they'll say, yeah, and then, you know, a year from now, they'll say, oh, yeah, we're gonna get around
Well, it
it.
wouldn't
But not
get to
if
a
it's
year from
code.
now, because Julie would, her staff would write it up.
Write it up.
Tomorrow or Monday, and then they have 14 days, and then it would be
See,
filed
that's
in
what I
municipal
think.
court.
I think it should be.
You could do that. I could take a shot at reaching out to the bank and saying, can we please finish this? Either or probably get you the same end.
Well, if we are gonna tear it down, and it doesn't look like we're gonna tear it down, I don't see any reason for it to be on the demolition list. It is definitely a code violation, but we have a lot of those around
Yeah,
town
that's.
that aren't on the demolition
It's
list.
not a real serious code.
But it's not a,
Right.
Right.
it's not a demolishable property, I don't think, is it?
It currently would not meet our criteria for demolition, no.
But it is definitely a code violation.
So what would you be?
Take it off the demolition list and let them take care of it as a code violation.
And cite it immediately as code.
Well, we could do a combination maybe of the two, where I would call tomorrow and say,
Yeah.
it's been removed.
That would be
However,
good too.
my code enforcement officers will be out later this afternoon, short of a plan from you to complete this project.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Ms. Williams, what type of motion you need from us? That motion to remove it from, the demo list and for action for the city manager and staff?
Yeah, I
We
would
don't-
say-
We don't have to get down to the
Right,
details.
Yeah,
We
I
can
would say
follow.
just move to, motion to remove and have staff follow up with code violations.
Okay. So
So-
Simple enough.
Can we so move?
So moved.
So moved?
800, yeah, 800 Miami.
Did you second it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Motion and a second to remove 800 Miami from the demo list and have staff follow up as discussed. Begin voting. Commissioner Griswold?
Aye.
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 Passes 4-0. Thank you. Next item is Resolution B 2195, Planners 2, Schedule of Charges.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, I'll be handling this one tonight. This is within the admissions and continuing occupation policy of what governs Planners 2. We have itemized costs for cleaning apartments and equipment and then repairing items within the apartment. So if somebody moves out and we have to clean the oven, we have to have stated for them up front what it costs us to, what we're gonna charge them if we have to clean individual items. We haven't updated that since 2009. Certain things have changed. A couple items actually went lower, some went higher. Just a couple quick examples. Section 3, we used to charge $15 to clean an oven that had not been cleaned prior to move out. That's been changed to $25. If there was pet waste that we had to clean, it was $5. It's now $10. These all represent the charges that we would pay. These are all minor charges. Some did go down. Section 4, repairing or replacing items. Toothbrush holder used to be $14. Now it's $7. Very, very minimal things, but because they're in the ACOP, which is the policy that governs it, it has to be passed by resolution. So it's been a while since we updated these prices, and the prices are before you. There's no large changes. They're all in the $5 to $10 range.
They're reasonable.
And when you do have to clean, does staff do it, or do we hire ServPro, or?
Staff does it, and there is a bullet on there. If the apartment requires professional cleaning, the resident will just be charged the invoice that we're charged to clean it. But for the most part, we try to keep those charges low, manageable, so we can give as much as security deposit back when somebody leaves as possible.
What is the normal security deposit, or does it vary from unit to unit?
It's 1 month rent.
1 month, okay.
Yeah, usually.
Any questions?
No.
Questions, comments? If not,
I'm ready.
I'll take a motion.
I move to adopt the attached resolution, B 2195, amending the admissions and continued occupancy policy for Planners 2.
Second.
Motion and second to accept resolution B 2195 as presented. Begin voting. Commissioner Bowder?
Aye.
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 4-0, thank you. Next item, resolution 2196, CDBG annual action plan.
Our Community Development Advisory Coordinator, Mary Dwyer, will handle this item.
Mary?
I'm here.
Nice to see everybody.
Nice to see you.
I thought I would take a couple of minutes to explain to you what CDBG is and how it works. The CDBG fund is passed to us as an entitlement city from the federal government, and its use needs to match one of 3 national objectives. That is to benefit low, moderate income people, to aid in the prevention or elimination of blight and slums, and to meet a need in a particular urgency like a general disaster. So those 3 are major overall ways that we can use this funding. As a general explanation, how we receive the funds and what they can be used for, they can be used for housing, home repair, home construction, home ownership are a couple of examples there. Public facilities, we have in the past used them for sidewalks. They could be used for sidewalks or other public structures, as long as they met serving low, moderate income area. We would have to do that through census. Public services, there's a 15% limit on using our funds for public services, but we can give funds to public service agencies. We can do economic development, excuse me just a minute. We can do economic-based development organizations, which is a nonprofit organization that then would carry out home repairs or something like that. And then, of course, planning and administration, that's me. Limitations on the funds are that admin can be no more than 20% of the funds. Public service agencies can be no more than 15% of the funds. And demos cannot exceed 30% of our funds that in comparison to what we spend for low, moderate income people. So we have to do some kind of tricky math about that one. Our process to receive funds, we get notification from the federal government. Usually we get it in February. It's been kind of tardy the last couple of years, but at least we get it, so that's a good thing. Then we have public hearings. We've had 2 public hearings. We do plan development. Then we write it up. We have revisions. Then we bring it to the Community Development Advisory Board for final approval. And they recommend it forward to the commission for approval. After that, then we have to do some environmental things to meet HUD regulations. If we do everything that HUD wanted us to do, then they'll send us back a release of funds and we get it signed and then we're off and running. For the last 2 years, we have used it primarily in rehab, homeownership, demolition, and public agency support. For 16-17, we had 19 homes that we did rehab on. We had 12 homeownership properties where we helped with down payment assistance and purchase of homes for low, moderate income people. We did 11 demolitions of dangerous structures, and then we provided public service agency support. For 15-16, we did 25 rehabs. We did 7 homeownership purchases, a sidewalk project, and public service agency support. So that's pretty much it. The other piece that you probably need to know is that our advisory board is mayor appointed. So if there's a vacancy, the mayor will appoint someone. If they don't have someone that they want to appoint, then I will recommend perhaps someone and they'll look into nominating that person. And they rotate every 2 years. I met with the board to make the priorities that are in the action plan today. And this is what they've put forward, and that kind of brings us up to date. So, that being said, questions?
Maybe just highlight the public service agencies that you've decided, the board has decided how to divvy up the funds. That you have $50,000 approximately that you can put into public service agencies and how you're going to do it. I know it's in our packet. But
okay. So public service agencies, we had looked at the applications that were brought forth and selected those that had completed the application. The board decided to fund the following, if the commission approves. Catholic Charities of Northeast Kansas for $5,000. Court-appointed special advocates for $14,500. The Leavenworth Mission for $6,000. St. Vincent's Clinic for $9,000. Youth Support Program for $2,610. And Welcome Central, which is part of the Community of Hope, for $6,000 to do the landlord-tenant resolution for the city. That's a contract, actually, not a direct grant to them. And so that comes up to the magic total of, if I did my math correctly, $50,210. I like to spend every penny.
Guidance Center, the Women's Community Wide.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss one? I apologize. I did. H. H is the Women's Community Y for $2,000.
And G.
And G? Ah, geez. Okay. And G, which is the Guidance Center for $5,100.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Thank you for the help.
I'm sorry.
I appreciate
Could
it.
we get the two other components, just to complete, I mean, in terms of the housing program? Sure.
Oh, sure.
You know, just
You want me to read all of
And then
it?
the first-time homebuyers program, just to.
Okay.
I have a question too about the first-time home buyers program.
Okay.
What is the income guideline for that?
I
Is it
don't,
low to moderate? Is there?
okay,
there's a
so
Depending on family size.
the way that we
I know,
set.
but there's a basic, the
The
basic
way that we
guideline.
set it up is that the low-income category, they get 8% of the loan amount,
Okay.
up to $8,000. Moderate income, we set at 5% up to $5,000. And the reason is just trying to serve that low-income category
Okay.
first. We tried to tailor both the home repair and home ownership programs to cater more to those low-income categories with more dollars to help them. So, and I don't know the exact numbers. They're set by HUD as to what low-income and moderate income is. But it's on a scale of how many household members there are.
Right. And do you usually use up all this money every year?
Some years, we do. Some years, like this year, I'm going gangbusters in homeownership, which for a town that's 50% rental is great because we really, as a city, want to see more owners.
Right.
So I think that that's great. So I've gone back to my board and asked them to reallocate some money from home repair, which it seems funny, but they kind of balance each other. So home repair is down a little bit, and home ownership is going gangbusters. We moved the money into that category, which we are allowed to do by the federal government up to a certain point. We can't just play willy-nilly with it, but.
And do they have to live there a certain number of years? then?
5.
That's what I think.
5 years. They have to live there 5 years. And if we do repairs, they have to live there 3 years on a sliding scale.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So how does the advisory board, and how do you, Mary, get the word out to, you know, for people to apply for these grants?
It was a lot easier when you could just put it in the newspaper. So we still put it in the newspaper, but we also try social media. We send to as many churches as we can find. We send a notice to those. We sent notices to public service agencies who have applied in the past, and then we make general announcements at like the Leavenworth Human Service Council and other locations where agencies are that we're accepting applications.
And I think most of the bankers, mortgage companies in Leavenworth know about it. They have a
I've gone
estimate comes in.
I've gone and visited with several
Yeah.
of the banks, most of the banks in
Yeah,
town.
They know about it. They say.
They know about it, and I also go and talk with real estate companies, so that they're really the ones that I try to work with
Sure.
hard, because they can make a big influence on people perhaps doing that.
Definitely, it's a good program.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay. I just ask for the pass of the resolution to move our annual action plan forward to the federal government.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll take a motion.
I move we adopt the resolution authorizing submission of the 2018-19 annual action plan for the community development block grant.
Second.
Motion and second to approve Resolution B 2196. Begin voting. Commissioner Bowder.
Aye.
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 Passes 4-0. Next item is Resolution B 2197, authorizing the sale of bonds and temporary notes.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, the issue before the Commission here is to consider a resolution relating to the city's general obligation bonds, Series 2018A, and temporary notes, Series 2A 2018. And I'll let you know what each are. The general obligation bonds are the bonds that we're issuing for our annual road project. We've talked about this ad nauseum, the approximate $1.3 million that we send out. The little bit more includes all of our issuance costs involved in that. And then the temp notes in this series would go to fund the projects of the Riverfront Community Center stone replacement project, and then the improvements on New Lawrence Road from 20th Street approximately 500 feet north. So upon passing of the resolutions, we'll continue the bond process and then prepare for the sale of the bonds on the market.
Any questions for Mr. Kramer? If not, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution B 2197 as presented.
Second.
Motion and second to approve Resolution B 2197, approving the sale of bonds and temporary notes. Begin voting. Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
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 Passes 4-0. Thank you. Next item, Resolution B 2198, Innova LLC Industrial Revenue Bonds.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. You provided a consensus to move forward with an incentive of industrial revenue bonds for the new Care Pharmacy at the April 10th Commission meeting. This means the building materials and equipment on the project will have its sales tax exempted through the IRB financing mechanism. This IRB proposal includes $850,000 as the total amount issued, with Innova LLC, which is owned 50-50 by the owners of Care Pharmacy, the Candlewalls, as purchaser of those bonds. The exemption will result in an estimated $80,750 in sales tax savings on that project for them, and that's the total amount of state, county, and city sales tax that would be exempted. Mr. Candlewall is here to answer any questions about this, and I'm asking that you approve the resolution of intent for us to move forward on this incentive.
Any questions or comments? I'll just state, just for clarification, that they estimate approximately 850. The building's a $1.5 million building or something approximately. And estimate is $850,000 in materials, lumber, screws, light bulbs, whatever else. And by using industrial revenue bonds to incent them to build this property, put it on the tax roll, they will get sales tax free status for any of the materials used in building the building. Am I correct in assuming that? And if they in fact spend $850,000, in theory they get $80,750 in sales tax savings, which 80% of it, or not 80%, 75% of it is state, 2 cents of the 9.5 is city, and 1 cent is the county. So, and we've used it before on different projects in the city, and it works well. It's good for the investor, and it's good for the city. We get new buildings, new things on the tax rolls. Helps us all.
Correct. It essentially allows the developer to use our sales tax exempt certificate to purchase their materials and equipment.
Yeah.
So.
The other important note on that is there's no incentive or abatement following completion of construction. There's no property tax abatement, no sales tax abatement following. This is just tied to the construction of the building. So it'll operate, once it's operating, there'll be a full taxed entity.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
The benefit. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Kendall, would you like to speak? You're welcome to speak. Please identify yourself.
Sandeep Kanawal, I'm one of the part owners of the Care Pharmacy here. I'm here. Thank you for having us again, and I appreciate, a little help here and there for a small investor always helps. So thank you so much.
When will you, if we approve this, when do you start building?
Our plans are already underway. We're not, waiting on this. We're already working towards the plan. Our plan was to get this completed before the end of December, and so that we can, by the new year comes in and we're back into the new pharmacy, a larger full real estate.
Are you on schedule for doing that, you think?
We're a little behind, but we hope to catch up.
Okay, okay. Any other questions for Mr. Canderall?
No, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
No other questions? We'll take a motion.
I'll move that we adopt Resolution B 2198 to approve the resolution of intent to issue industrial revenue bonds for Innova LLC.
Second.
Motion and second to approve Resolution B 2198 as presented. Again, voting Commissioner Bowder.
Aye.
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 Passes 4-0. Thank you. Good luck, Mr. Kendall.
Yep. Good luck.
Next item, B 2199, set the public hearing for unsafe or dangerous structures.
Once again, Julie Hurley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. This is the resolution to set the public hearing for our current round of demolition structures. As you'll recall, on April 3rd of this year, the Commission reviewed a list of 16 structures that staff has assessed to be of lighting influence on their neighborhood, essentially. So we're moving forward with those. Of those 16 reviewed by the Commission, 3 are not placed on this resolution. 2 of those, 306 Kickapoo and 322 Potawatomi, the owners of those properties signed a voluntary demolition agreement with the city. That's basically asking the city to go ahead and demolish their home, and that will then be assessed against the property on their property taxes. So doing that allows us to cut out quite a few steps, and those do not have to go through this process. So we'll get going on those 2 right away. And then 884 Cherokee, the owner of that one, went ahead and demolished the property on their own. So those 3 are taken care of. So we do have the remaining 13 on the resolution to set for public hearing. The resolution does set the public hearing for June 26th here in the Commission chambers. At that time, staff will present an overview of each of those properties and update on any progress or contact that has been made between now and that time. So after the resolution would be passed tonight, we'll go ahead and proceed with additional notification to the property owners. They have already received informal notification from us and trying to get them to start working on them, but we'll provide the notification that's required by statute, get moving on that, and get those all prepared for the public hearing.
Okay, any questions, Ms. Hurley?
No, at this time.
That's good to me.
If not, I'll take a motion.
I move that we approve Resolution B 2199 to set a public hearing date of June 26, 2018 for review of 13 dangerous and unsafe structures.
Second.
And is it 13 or 10? Is it
13.
down to 13? It was 16.
Was
Took it down.
16, we're down to
Yeah,
13,
okay.
yep.
Motion and a second to pass Resolution 2199. Begin voting. Commissioner Griswold?
Aye.
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 Passes 4-0. Thank you. Next item, consider bids for water pollution control truck.
This will be our Public Works Director, Mike McDonald, and I think we also have our WPC Superintendent, Chuck Staples.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, this is a request that the City Commission approve the purchase of a sewer cleaning vacuum truck. This is to replace an existing unit that is 15 years old. With the newer equipment, we've made some improvements that will increase our efficiency, we believe, and ability to perform more work. We have really increased the amount of work that we use this truck for in the last few years based on guidance from the federal government. And the new proposed new truck would greatly help with that. The purchase of this truck is based on use of purchasing cooperatives, which is allowed in our purchasing policy. We studied opportunities for several vendors, but primarily VACCON and Vactor. Both are covered through these national purchasing cooperatives. In this case, we evaluated bids through two different such cooperatives and received the low bid was from VACCON. The wastewater, Chuck Staples has contacted users of VACCON equipment throughout Kansas and find that there are no issues that would cause us concern at this time. And we would recommend that the City Commission approve this purchase agreement with VACCON. It's worth noting that it's proposed that the finance of this would be over a lease purchase agreement over 3 years. There'll be a separate agreement of the actual lease document that will be reviewed by our attorney, brought to the commission for approval, but that could not be prepared till it was officially approved that we actually want to purchase the equipment.
Say that again now?
So what we're doing tonight is asking the commission to approve the low bid. And then once we do that, we will contact VACCON and they will prepare the lease documents. There's actually quite a bit that goes into leasing it. And then David, our Waters, will review that lease. And the lease itself will come back to you for approval. So you're approving the low bid tonight, which essentially allows the city to start the process of entering into the actual lease agreement.
Why would we lease it rather than purchase it?
Cost. We pay for this out of our wastewater rates.
Right.
And you would have to take such a large chunk of your wastewater rates that would probably require a rate increase. But if you put it over 3 years, the life of these are 15 years, so it makes sense over 3 years
They're
to
basically
do it that way.
financing it for us.
Yes.
Is what they're doing.
Yes.
Okay.
Mike, what are you doing with the old 03?
It's open for debate. There's been some discussion. Of course, there are others in the organization that would like to have it. However, we have not finalized that. As original intent was to sell it as surplus equipment. We do have a backup sewer cleaner truck that works. We use it several times a year when our regular truck's in for maintenance. We think backup truck thing will kind of get better over time also, as we believe the city of Lansing is looking at purchasing their own similar truck to the one we're discussing this evening. And of course, there are other services in the, like Ready Service or Roto-Rooter type companies. If we do get in a jam and need additional equipment, that are available as well.
Can you put this on our website? Do other cities have opportunities to look at us if you're looking at a smaller community that needs a truck and can't afford 300,000?
Yeah, we put it on Purple Wave, which is a popular auction site for municipal type vehicles, and we sell a lot of fire trucks like that to smaller communities.
Okay.
On average, Chuck, how many times a year is this truck used? I mean, is it in constant use or?
The mainline truck, the one we're replacing, every day.
Okay.
About 5 days a week.
Okay.
We've cleaned, our goal is 40 miles of sewer cleaning per year. We've hit 50 miles, almost 50 miles last year and similar the year before. So it typically operates with a 2 or 3 person crew.
Okay.
Yeah, you see it all over town, so.
Yeah.
How many miles of sewer do we have in town? Do you know off the top of your head if you have to make a rough guess?
I think with the addition of industrial park, we're probably up to about 172 miles.
Any other questions or comments? I like the picture, the one that looks like it's up against a beach or something. I mean, it's very sexy and nice looking.
That's a backup.
We do have the option to
explain that. I wish you could
we hope
shoot
we
that
don't
up there
see
for
that
the public to see.
There is an option to pick it up and drive it back, and you could go to the where they make these, I think is in Florida, so.
Okay. And if we do approve this tonight, when do you expect delivery?
About 45 days, once the lease is probably
Yeah,
approved.
the lease will come back in
It'll
maybe
come back
2
to
weeks,
us.
depending on
Then
our city
45
attorney's
days after the
review.
lease is approved?
Yeah, approximately.
Okay, okay. Any other questions? Not, I'll take a motion.
Okay. I move we approve the purchase of the CON combination sewer cleaning truck at the cost of $375,000 with a 3-year lease purchase, using CON contract SC01-18. With the lease purchase, the total cost of this purchase would be $397,750.53.
Second.
Wait.
When the policy report was written, we hadn't really discussed that, how this would be presented this evening. We had some discussions after that. So I think the motion this evening is just going to approve that bid from
VACCON.
VACCON?
Yes.
Was it
Okay.
$375,000 bid, or
The
just
375
approve the bid?
Just approve the bid,
Right.
and then the.
Without any numbers attached to it?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Go
I
ahead,
amend
Commissioner
my,
Brown. Yeah.
okay, I amend my motion to just say I move that the city commission approve the purchase of the CON combination sewer cleaning truck. Is that enough?
From VACCON.
Oh, from VAC-COM.
From VACCON.
Second.
VACCOM.
Motion and second to approve the purchase of the water pollution control truck from VACCON. You can vote in, Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
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 Passes 4-0. Next item, first consideration, ordinance amending parking restrictions. I think we have the chief here for that.
Yes, we do.
Welcome, chief.
Just 1 second while I get the map pulled up. Mr. Mayor, Commission, the Police Department is before the governing body this evening requesting that you place an ordinance on first consideration that would make changes to section 110-78 and section 110-96 of the Municipal Code of Ordinances. On March the 19th of 2018, Danny Zach, representing the Ford Motor Company, made a formal request to the Police Department of the City of Leavenworth to enact parking restrictions in and around Zach Ford at 4501 South 4th Street. Over the course of the last several years, in particular associated with the new parking lot on the south side of the facility there, we have been involved in a number of parking complaints, including such items, parking too close to the corner, blocking vision, blocking of the fire hydrant, large transport vehicles stopping in the middle of the road to unload, and prohibiting ingress and egress of the other businesses. And so my experience told me that we need to have everybody represented in the same room together. And so I invited everybody to a meeting at the police department on April the 20th. Represented at that meeting was myself and our traffic supervisor, Ralph Sorrell, as well as Mr. Zach, Damon Moorfield of Moorfield Super Saver, and Susan Polk of the Khaki Hound Camo Kitty. Let me orient everybody on the map. So this is Zach Ford Corporation here. This is 4th Street. That would be Muncie. That's Commercial Place, and that's Commercial Street. That is the Khaki Hound and Camo Kitty animal facility there, and this is Mr. Moorfield's Super Saver store here, okay? So we had about an hour-long meeting. I took off my police chief hat and put on my head referee hat, gave everybody the fair opportunity to say whatever they had to say. At the conclusion of the meeting, there was a general consensus about what we feel like is the best opportunity. I think there was a lot of give and take, some yin and yang. Everybody was kind of doing the best they can to be a good business owner, but be a good business neighbor as well to try and facilitate. So essentially what we have principally at this location right here, there's a lot of parking too close to the corner, which if you're trying to pull out right there, blocks vision. There is a lot of car haulers and vehicles stopping in this location here in the middle of the roadway, which obviously prohibits people from getting in and out of the businesses right there, and the same thing over here. As well, a bunch of the trucks that deliver either to Mr. Moorfield or Mr. Zach's place use this access here, and they pull down here. There's parking on both sides there, and there's a big truck that's coming. That makes it a little bit apprehensive for everybody. So, at the conclusion of the meeting, everybody agreed that the best course of action would be to prohibit parking at all on this section here, which would be section 110-78. I'm sorry, that's the other one. Let me get oriented here real quick. 110-96. No parking, stopping, or standing on the east side of Commercial Place from Muncie Road to Commercial Street right here. This side of the road, there would be no parking. Everybody felt like that was the best course of action. It gets real tight in there, okay? The reason why it's no parking, stopping, or standing is because a car or a truck can stop in the middle of the road to unload, and that would be considered standing, so we need to prohibit that, okay? Or I'd be asking for you to prohibit that, so that's there. And then, in an active discussion, we feel like the best course of action, since a number of the trucks that are pulling in, coming here, no parking on that road right there on the south side. Now, in fairness, Mr. Zeck initially wanted it to go to about halfway, but he was willing, after some discussion, to defer to me as a matter of safety. I would like to go all the way there. I think by general agreement, what is happening now is all of the big car haulers and big trucks are pulling all the way down here and offloading, and there's not much traffic, and that's amenable to everybody. And so the other part of it would be section 110-78, which would be on the south side of Commercial Street from 4th to Commercial Place, prohibit parking in that particular location right there. In addition, we felt like some additional signage, which is not required for an ordinance change, but some more visible signage towards the corners here and here would communicate a little bit better to the folks. And then right there, there seems to be a car that parks there once in a while, so we're just going to prohibit that. You can't really park there anyway, because you can't park within 25 feet of a corner of an intersection, but I think the idea was more signage would be better and make it better for everybody. And so coming out of all of that, I wanted to make sure that I didn't misconstrue anything, so I wrote everybody a letter. I said, here's what, I took out of the meeting to make sure everybody's in agreement. Invited him tonight to come. Nobody's here. Mr. Zeck, I talked to him by phone yesterday morning. He's fine. So I think we all agreed that's what's in the best interest to try out there to make it a little bit better. Again, we've entertained quite a few complaints. We try not to write any tickets, but we've written about 4 tickets in the last several years out there for parking violations. And so we're going to try this and see if that'd be better. Yes, questions?
Who's parking out there? I mean, who are the people that are parking along those streets? Are they employees or? Predominantly,
Mr. Zeck's employees are probably what take up. There's repair cars, that sort of thing. Mr. Moorfield has plenty of parking for his business.
Right.
His complaint is ingress and egress. And then the same thing for the Khaki Hound place. They have parking there sufficient for their business. It's a matter of getting in and out.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of construction ongoing right now there. They're doing something out there that I think they bought that piece of property. So in terms of going forward, we're going to try as best we can to make sure that the construction project continues without too much. Again, that's what we kind of agreed to. No parking, stopping and standing right here, and no parking right there on the south side to allow for. I've driven by there the last week or so. There's probably 6 cars that park right there that, if we make the move, they can probably accommodate that fairly easily.
As far as the big trucks offloading and that, where will they do that then?
Yes, ma'am. So like I said earlier, what I think by agreement and all that, what they're all sort of pushing them to right there.
Okay.
Which Mr. Moorfield is okay with, because again, there's not much traffic. When the people are going to his business, they'll come in and park right here.
Okay.
And so that seems to solve it. The difficulty Mr. Zeck and them have is that they contract with truckers. It's not like they have the same people, and so whenever they're coming in, they tried the best they can to communicate with everybody, but they get the odd person that's new, and so it's a little bit problematic. But we feel like this was the best course of action for out there.
Yeah.
Where's the employees gonna be parking now, because you're gonna be impacting that?
I think that some of the parking on the big new parking lot has been designated for employee parking. It might be less of a parking problem and more of a walking problem.
Right.
And so, I think that'll probably, Mr. Zeck will probably be helpful that we're making it no parking, and hopefully we won't have to write any tickets, but maybe that will facilitate that.
Good.
Now, this is a consensus that we'd move it forward for the next regular meeting 2 weeks from now, but you have the authority, 90-day authority, that you can put those signs up right now for 90 days.
I could, right, I could do that. I don't think there's that much urgency to do it. I think it could follow the normal routine.
You have that authority, but be permanent, it has to come to us for the Zords.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
On the street that goes east and west,
This one?
yeah,
Yes, sir.
and I know you can park on the north side now. And I'm just guessing most traffic is coming on 4th Street, turning right into there. They can be parking on the wrong side, or is that an issue? Because to park on that north side, in theory, you should come down, you know.
Sure. Yeah, they're probably
Is
coming
that-
this way and then park that way, facing the west.
Yeah, is
So-
that an issue, how
No,
they park each
I don't think so.
Okay, okay. Any other questions for the chief?
No.
No?
Do we have a consensus to move this forward?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, we'll see you again in a couple of weeks.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure. Thank you. Consent agenda.
Yes, this is the list of expenditures / claims. First one for May. So it includes 2 expenditures for United Healthcare Insurance Company, which is a monthly expenditure / claim, and then for Delta Dental. I'll just highlight those in terms of something that's on a recurring and regular basis at the beginning of the month. But I am ready to move that we approve claims for April 21st, 2018 through May 4th, 2018 in the amount of $1,051,136.92. Net amount for pay number 9 effective April 27th, 2018 in the amount of $324,011.96. Includes police and fire pension of $11,572.36.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Begin voting. Commissioner Bowder?
Aye.
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 Passes 4-0. Discussion among commissioners. Commissioner Bowder?
No, can't think of anything right now.
Commissioner
I
Dennett?
don't have anything.
Commissioner Griswold?
No.
I just have a couple things, as I mentioned earlier, the police chief and I, and Sergeant Sorrell,
Hall.
Sergeant
And-
Hall, and
And Officer Skoda.
Skoda attended the police memorial in Topeka last Friday, a very well-done event. City of Leavenworth was seated in the front row, and the Attorney General and the Governor, Attorney General Schmidt and Governor Collier both spoke, and we then retreated out to the lawn where the band, the bagpipers, and where they put the wreath on the memorial, and our officer's name was put permanently engraved in the memorial. And a very moving ceremony, very, very well done. And there were officers, police officers from all over the state there. There's hundreds, maybe 1,000 police officers there. Very nicely done. I also attended the Horizon Scholars event last week sometime, I think it was Wednesday night, where high school, we give a coin of the city to the Horizon Scholars. These are students that have above a 4-point average at Leavenworth High, and there was actually 37 of them with greater than a 4-point average. So it was quite a nice event at the community center. The next night, our ROTC, we used to call it field night, but I don't think they refer to it as field night anymore. ROTC Awards Night, presented the mayor's award for, I think, the best company or the best platoon there. And forgot to mention a couple weeks ago, I attended a retirement, I don't know whether it's a retirement dinner, but Lieutenant General Arter, civilian aide to the Secretary of the Army for the eastern part of Kansas, is going into emeritus status, and there's a nice event that they're honoring him, and I represented the city at that event. I forgot to mention to you, I think one of your classmates is due, Hockley. I met him.
Mike Hockley is the new captain.
So, and that was a very, very nice event. So, those are just a couple things. Mr. Kramer, do you have anything?
Just quickly, I was able to take a pretty good tour of the business park this afternoon. The road is in, it is drivable, they still have the cones on. The reason they have the cones on is the trail is the next section. And they'll start working on the trail here pretty soon, and the plan is to start on both sides and get up about 50 or 100 feet, so then they can start working on the landscaping berm. So they expect to start that here in the next couple weeks. So we're really moving along. All the utilities are in, and it's a really pretty impressive to drive back there and see all the possibilities that could happen. So we're start working on a ribbon cutting here probably for the middle of June at some point.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
The sign, are we gonna, I know you sent out an email to the.
Yeah, we've moved forward on the sign. There was, the commission set the direction as far as the size and look at
Right.
it and feel and stuff like that. And the only issue was a
Was a
logo
logo.
or not a logo, and there was no momentum for that logo. There is a possibility of adding a logo or adding something else to the pedestal at a future date. So we'll bring that back, so.
If you
good.
want to introduce.
Yeah, and making it official, I know Mr. Waters has been our city attorney on an interim basis since January, or some points about there, but just recently, he has accepted a full appointment as our permanent city attorney. So I'd like to welcome him on board. More experience than you can imagine in municipal government, and we're happy to have him on board.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you, very privileged. Appreciate it.
Don't you serve on city council?
I am on the city council in Westwood, Kansas, as well. Yes. So
Great.
certainly in your chair.
No.
I'll be there.
Are you the mayor of
I'll
Westwood?
be in your seat Thursday night.
Are you the mayor of Westwood?
No, I'm not. I'm not. No, I'm just a lowly councilman.
Are you by ward there?
No, we're all at large. Our entire city is at large. We have
Great.
five city council members elected at large, and the mayor.
Same as our.
And the mayor is elected at large.
Mayor's
So we have a
elected. Oh,
governing
that's
body of
separate.
6,
Okay.
5 at-large council members and a
that's
mayor
good.
at large as well.
How big is Westwood? I know,
We have about 732 homes. I say about. It's 732 homes at 1,600, 1,650 people, something along those lines.
how many square miles?
Oh gosh, I mean 3 or 4.
Right, and then I sat with the mayor of Fairway at the mayor's prayer breakfast in Kansas City.
Yes.
She's 1 square mile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they're a little bit bigger than that. They're a little bit
She
bigger
told me
than
1
that.
square mile. Ms. Williamson, do you have any?
Nothing.
Yeah, if nothing else, take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.